Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our own farmhouse. Spring is finally in the air, and today I want to talk to you about one of the very first things you should be doing when you purchase a property or you're starting a homestead. And that is deciding if you're going to plant fruit trees, and if you're going to, selecting the fruit trees that you are going to plant. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into today's video. Alright guys, well over the last 5 years we've planted more than 30 fruit trees here on our property. And with that said, I'd like to consider myself a little bit of an expert when it comes to selecting fruit trees. We've had a great deal of success over the years, and I want to share a couple of tips with you guys on selecting the right trees. Now, tip number one is once you've decided you're going to plant trees, and I'm going to use fruit trees as an example, you want to make sure that you get them in the ground as soon as possible, but definitely after that last frost date. Make sure you're checking your Farmer's Almanac, or you're Googling it, or you check your weather channel. Find out when that last frost date is and make sure you stay at least a week behind that date to ensure that you do not damage your tree. Now, when you purchase a tree, and this is a young apple tree right here, you're gonna see that there are little blossoms on it. Those little blossoms, if they are impacted by a strong frost or freeze, they are not going to survive or grow any fruit that year. Now, I've purchased many fruit trees over the years, and in the first year, about half of them will produce fruit for me, especially peaches and apples. With that said though, make sure you're doing your research for what trees will grow well in your area. For us living up here in the northern area, we need to make sure that we have trees that are selected for our region. Don't just go to a big box store and purchase fruit trees that they have. They may look great at the time, but they may not survive your winter if you live somewhere cold, or they may not survive your heat if you live down south where it gets a lot hotter. With that said, make sure that you're finding a tree that is healthy. Again, you're gonna want those little blooms on them, and you're gonna wanna make sure that the tree is alive. If it looks brittle and hard, it's likely not gonna survive. Once you've got your tree selected, it's on to selecting your location. So most trees are going to come with some kind of identification tag, which is going to show you where to plant them. A general rule of thumb is that most trees are going to want to be planted in full sun, especially if they're fruit bearing. You want to make sure that they're spaced out if you're planting more than one, at least 10 feet, but again, check that tag. Once you've selected your location, make sure you dig a hole at least 2.5 times the diameter of what the pot that the plant has come in. Once that's been dug out, you're going to go ahead and drop it into the ground and fill with light compost and water well. All right, guys. Well, when I say water well, I mean water well. A general rule of thumb is, again, 2 to 3 5-gallon buckets of water per every fruit tree for every 2 to 3 days. And if it's hotter out, you're going to want to water them even more frequently. And if it's kind of cold and wet out, then you might be able to skip some days. But make sure that you're watering them very regularly, and make sure that you're checking on them very frequently for at least their first 3 months of transplant. That said, their root system is low, and their root system is usually kind of tightly bound up into a ball. If you've loosened those, you're providing really all the water for their survival, and so those roots have grown off into the surrounding soil. So with that said, just some general water. You don't need to fertilize them or anything like that. Generally speaking, the potting blend that is with the tree is going to have some kind of all-purpose fertilizer in it that's going to help it grow. All right, guys, last but certainly not least is making sure that your fruit trees have an opportunity to grow and thrive. If you have children or pets, make sure that they're leaving those trees alone, and make sure that nothing is bothering them for at least 9 months. Trees take a long time to establish and to begin growing. And like I said earlier in the video, they may produce fruit in their first year, but it's not a guarantee. If you want to make sure that you're checking them for beetles, squirrels, chipmunks, dogs, kids, make sure everything is staying away from them. And if you notice anything, take care of it right away. Oftentimes trees can suffer from fungus or beetles. Those are kind of the two biggest concerns when it comes to growing trees, and you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. If everything goes well, and as long as there's no damage to the tree and you follow these very, very simple instructions, you are going to have some really great trees. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you are interested in getting out and planting trees. And if you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, or really anything that you'd love to share, please leave them in the comment section below. And with that said, guys, I want to thank you for watching today's video. Thank you.